So, today's subject is traveling wellness. So that's protecting your health when you're on the road, be it for business, be it for pleasure. We need to protect our health, right? If we don't protect our health, we end up with consequences at the end, right? So, travel doesn't have to derail your health. The goal isn't about perfection. It's about intentionally protecting your habits to help you feel the best you can whenever you're on the road. You want to be able to get up and go to that meeting and have good cognitive function and energy, or go and do the museums or meet friends, whatever it is when you are traveling on the road, okay? So, let's think about some things. So when you travel, think about what gets disrupted first. Maybe sleep, exercise, movement, food,
hmm
hydration, stress levels, uh, family routines, relationships, your work-life balance. So, travel just is not a change in location. It's a disruption. It's a disruption in a lot of things. It's a disruption in your not cognitive, circadian rhythm, in your daily routines, the things that you always do and your body expects you to do, um, your food environment. So, at home you have the food you can eat. And if you're out and about within the community that you live in, you know where you can get the foods that feed your body. Maybe any movement patterns you have, maybe going on a walk or a bike ride, whatever it is that you do that keeps you moving and keeps the little grease in your joints. Social connections, connections to family and friends, and recovery. So the more intentional we are, the less disruption we will experience, right? So let's talk about a mind shift to think about, instead of saying surviving travel, to being traveling intentionally. So if you think about it, many people have two mindsets in regards to traveling. There's the shrug mode. "Well, what can I do? Really?" And if you think about that way, what does that lead to? Poor sleep, poor food choices, maybe too much alcohol, no movement, feeling terrible when you get home, like you need a vacation from your vacation, or you need a vacation from your work travel. So maybe becoming a more intentional traveler, like, what can I do to support myself while I am away? What would some of those things be? Ideally, your conditions aren't going to be perfect, right? But you always have choices. So instead of perfection, think about maybe one or two things you can protect. And then when you're getting ready to leave on your trip, ask yourself, what does well-being look like for me on this trip, on this work trip, on this vacation? What does it look like? We can break this down into four pillars of travel wellness. The first one would be protect your sleep. I'm for that. Sleep is usually the first casualty of travel, especially if you're traveling over time zones. If you don't have enough sleep, it can affect energy levels. It can affect mood. Who hasn't been around somebody that hasn't enough sleep? They are not pleasant, are they? Short-tempered, cranky. Food cravings. I've had that experience, especially when I travel overseas. I have a tendency to choose not the best foods the next day. I lean more into the carbs instead of making sure I'm getting fiber and protein and good fat. It can affect your immunity. When I used to be a sales rep, after I got out of college, I was traveling across the United States all the time, and every time I came home from a work trip, I'd always have strep or something. It was horrible. So yeah, it affects your immune system, recovery, your ability to bounce back. your productivity to get things done that you want to. So let's lean into some practical strategies, okay? Before you travel, especially for larger time shifts, begin adjusting your bedtime 1 to 2 days before departure. If we're talking about, you're going 3 hours, 4 hours time change, usually 2 hours is not that big of a deal. You want to shift your meal slightly, shift your morning light exposure, because morning light sets our circadian rhythm. It includes our melatonin, tells it to slow down production. We don't need it. And then while you're traveling, treat light like it's a drug. Morning light will help your body reset its clock and help improve alertness. If you have a hard time with that, and you can get a small travel red light, that will help. Evening light will delay your sleep. It will tell your body, it is not time to go to bed. So it can make jet lag worse. So tools you can lean into. An eye mask. We all know about the sleep mask, especially if you do any international long distance traveling, they give you that. Earplugs. My favorites are these loops. I love them. They also have some sleep earbuds, and just get some also sleep buds. A white noise machine. You can download an app on your phone. You can get a white noise machine. My daughter travels with a white noise machine. And then when you think about when you're staying in a hotel, request a room away from the elevator. You don't want to hear the tick, tick, tick of the elevator all the time. Away from the ice machine, so you don't have the clip, 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 clip of the ice. And my husband and I, because we've both been in a horrible car accident, we like to be away from any highway noise because that will keep us awake. So, protect your sleep. Ask yourselves, what are my non-negotiable sleep hours? Is it from midnight to 4 a.m.? You need to have that. Is it from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m.? Decide what is your non-negotiable and then protect them like they're your firstborn child. Other things to think about: avoiding caffeine 6 hours before bedtime, especially if you're caffeine sensitive. Create a non-tech window to help your body wind down. Keep your room cool and dark. Our bodies like it when it's dark. If you need to, travel with, what are they called? Dark dots. These little dots you can put on all the little lights that tells you things are plugged in that we don't really need clues for. Or you can just take masking tape and do the same thing, or electrical tape and do the same thing. Unpack and disconnect from everything at least 30 minutes before you go to sleep. And I'm not advocating putting things, especially into hotel drawers, because we don't want to bring home any creatures, right? Some melatonin. I don't prescribe it. It's out of my scope of practice, but many sleep experts suggest small doses, like a half to 1 milligram, rather than over the counter where it's like 3, 4, 5, 6 milligrams. If you're interested in something like that, that's a conversation to have with Dr. Ingram. Make sure you're hydrated and fed. Traveling is very dehydrating. We don't think about drinking. If we're in a plane, that is dehydrating because the air circulating. If this is especially in like airplanes and conferences, we don't drink as much. Long drives, we don't have a tendency to drink as much because we feel like we're going to have to stop all the time. I need a rest stop again. I need a rest stop again. Hot climates. We're perspiring, so we're not putting in as much water as we need to. So, start a simple hydration habit. Drink water before you have coffee or tea in the morning. Consider bringing a refillable water bottle. Even on international travel, maybe you want one of those collapsible ones that makes it smaller because you can't take liquids through TSA, but you can fill it up though. So many of them have the nice water fountains around there, have the bottle fill up option. Consider bringing electrolytes with you. help your body, absorb and maintain that water. And then think about food planning. Instead of hoping healthy food appears around the corner, plan for it. When you set where you're going to stay, ask or think, take out Google Maps or whatever mapping thing you use. Is there a grocery store nearby? Does the hotel have a refrigerator? Does it have a microwave? Would you believe it or not? Recently, I stayed at a hotel that did not have a microwave. It didn't have it in the room. It didn't have it on another floor. I was absolutely shocked. Can groceries be delivered there? I've traveled many times, especially when we'd stay at my mother-in-law's, where we'd have groceries delivered to her house. She always like, oh, I can go and get it. And I'm like, we have too many sensitivities in my family. We can just ship it and it'll be there. Then maybe you want to keep a go-to travel grocery list on your phone, or maybe I have like a verbal box that I keep everything in, like extra cooking utensils, some spices, and then I sometimes have a little go-to grocery shopping list that says I need to make sure I get these. Um, Good things to have to travel with or have on your list would be fruit. Generally, dried fruit has too much sugar, so fresh fruit that you can carry, nuts, hard-boiled eggs, yogurt. Actually, I've heard recently that someone is taking frozen yogurt through TSA and having no problems at all because it's not a liquid, it's been frozen. So hopefully by the time you're eating it later, it will be defrosted enough so it isn't like eating ice cream. Hummus, vegetables, or your protein options like meat sticks, protein bars. And remember that food is fuel. Food is energy. So we're talking about airports. Airport food is improving, but for some people with many food sensitivities, it is not in a perfect zone right now. So consider bringing things with you that you can eat instead of just winging it and say, well, I'll just deal with the consequences. How fun are you when you have the consequences? So make sure you're researching your options before you're making decisions. Keep moving. Travel has a lot of sitting. You're sitting in a plane, you're sitting in a car, you're sitting and waiting. Sitting causes stiff muscles. It worsens your circulation, which is bad if you're especially on a long flight. It increases your fatigue. And sitting can contribute to the blood clots on the flights. So who wears compression socks when they travel? I do. I need to find better ones. The last ones I had were too tight. Before the trip, research what's available for you there. Is there a hotel gym? Do you like to use a hotel gym? Is there walking trails or running trails nearby? Is there a fitness center that you can do a drop in? Sometimes those fitness centers also has, yeah, for one free cross to try out. Hey, that's made in the shade. If you're a runner, are there running routes nearby? And maybe reframe what exercise is for you. You don't need to maintain your perfect routine. You just want to continue that movement, maintaining movement. So maybe it's a 15-minute walk, hotel workout room, exploring the city on foot, which is my favorite type of vacation. Just pop down in the city and start walking. Now we're talking about connection and your mental health. So protect your connection. If you're going to be gone a long time, like more than a week, maybe it's a couple weeks, extended travel for something. This is an area a lot of people overlook. So when you become disconnected, especially for people that are business travels or contract workers or frequent flyers or people that are in the flight industry, um, it can create like loneliness, relationship strain. Like you call home just to check in, but you're checking in. Are you making a connection? So sometimes people will call in. This is a struggle that I sometimes have with my husband because he travels all the time. He'll call in and check in with me. But in the meantime, he's like looking at the computer, talking to me, and I'm like, you're not here. You're not here. So, making sure you know how to connect with others and you don't become disconnected from home. What sort of rituals do you want to create for connection? If you're going to be, if you're a contract worker or long-term staying away, do you have like maybe Sunday evening family call? I check in with everybody. We're all having a conversation, catching up with what's going on. Or if you have kids at home, like small kids, is it a nightly calling in, checking in how Susie's doing? Tell me what your favorite thing was today. Or maybe a morning text with your spouse. Or if you're single, you just have a weekly check-in with friends. Um, might even have like those quick logistics, like I'm coming in at X time, but I need to get here and can you come help me or stuff like that, that type of things. Um, so there are different purposes for having a connection. So when we are traveling, we have a tendency to not be in our bodies. We want to ground ourselves. And how would you do that? You know, Grounding yourself, maybe bringing coffee or um, a journal, so you can journal, a book. I always travel with a book. Something that you do in your morning routine. Something that's a small anchor for your nervous system, because when our nervous system is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, it freaks out. And I'm sure many of you know that because Dr. Ingram talks a lot about the limbic system. It has cascading effects on down to your immune system. Okay. Um, so just something that helps you say, I know I'm away, but I still have me with me. So we're talking about like getting into recovery now. Many travelers get things wrong. The return home and immediately jump back into life. I'm here, let's get going. And then they wonder why they're drained and exhausted. So the travel recovery really affects a lot of people. Many times it's sleep debt. That's what I'm dealing right now at home. My husband was in Australia. He's home and he sits down on the couch at night. We're trying to connect and he's asleep. Dehydration, digestion disruptive, eating foods your body didn't like and now it's not happy with you. Some people are introverted and so it's too much social, or even the ambiverts are too much social. They don't schedule downtime for themselves. Or decision fatigue. Oh gosh, I'm here, and I had to make all these choices of where to go, what to do. There was like 5 different options. And then obviously we talked about the obvious one, time zone changes. So schedule recovery. When you're coming home, schedule recovery for yourself, okay? So first, avoid returning at midnight. That seems like an obvious, right? Full work day at 8 a.m. the next morning is not good when you're coming home late. So if you are coming home late, be kind to yourself and go in later. Um, Give yourself some buffer time. Make sure, going back to that, prioritizing sleep. Sound like a broken record? We're going to be hydrating still. And as always, eat nutrient-dense foods. That means every meal should have fiber from vegetables or fruits, protein, and a good healthy fat. Make sure you're getting sunlight. Sunlight is the thing that cues our body into sleep. So ask yourself after every trip, what worked for you? Think about it. What worked? What didn't work? So if it didn't work, what are you going to change? It didn't work that I didn't have a plan of where I could get snacks for me to have and easily when I got there. Then think about what are you going to do differently? How I support that. So every trip is a learning process. And with my family, we're still learning. My daughter was diagnosed celiac well over 10 years ago. My husband about 5 years after that. And it's still a continual learning process. We are getting far better than we used to, but it's a continual learning process. So there's some helpful travel tools out there, right? Um, has anybody looked at the Time Shifter app? There's a Time Shifter app, and then there's another one. What is it called? Oh, it begins with a K. I forgot to note that one. I found that one was really cool. There's a whole bunch of ones that I will put in the replay. I'll put a list of some great apps. And we talked about the refillable water bottle. And if you're traveling in a plane, collapsible is better. Your eye masks and earplugs and sleep buds. We talked about that. Compression socks. Maybe some travel size movement tools, bands, yoga straps. There's actually foldable yoga mats now that fold down small. And a portable healthy snack or a container to put portable healthy snacks in. So before your next trip, create your own personal travel wellness checklist. What will I do for sleep? What will I do for hydration? And what will I do to keep my body moving so it doesn't get rusty? How will I stay connected? And think about this. What will recovery look like after I get home? How much will I need? Make sure that you're booking time for yourself when you come home instead of jumping into whatever activity it might be. So, travel will not change it. Travel does change your environment, right? But it doesn't need to change your health and well-being. Obviously, the goal is not perfection. It's like healing here. It's a marathon and not a sprint. So just being kind to yourself. In closing, we're going to be talking about different questions I'd love to hear your feedback on. What habit, where'd it go there? There it is. What habits get disrupted when first when you travel? Think about it. Maybe write it down. What is the first habit for you that gets disrupted? What travel wellness strategy have you found that works best for you? And what's one thing that you would like to do differently on your next trip? And think about if there's differences in travel, like between work and vacation for those that travel for work. And then finally, what helps you feel grounded when you're away from home? What gives you that anchor?